11 strangers enter a deadly game for $1 billion, but 2 are secret killers. The losers face terrifying monsters and death. This is Mafia, the game of survival. In the near future, a popular game show known as Mafia has captured the attention of people all over the world, but nobody knows the true identity of its creator. Every game begins with 11 contestants consisting of 9 civilians and 2 Mafia members. The civilians must discover who the Mafias are and vote them out, while the Mafias are allowed to secretly kill one person every night. Whichever side manages to survive and win will receive $1 billion. But anyone who gets voted out will face a terrible death. After giving everyone their secret roles, the mysterious creator asks the contestants to introduce themselves, beginning with an elderly man named Luca. It soon becomes clear that Luca is an extremely wealthy businessman who is willing to gamble with everything, even his own life, because he has grown tired of his ordinary existence. Luca explains that his only family members are his children, who are already waiting to inherit his enormous fortune like greedy vultures. However, they don't know that Luca has already given away his entire wealth, meaning they won't receive anything when he dies. Despite this, the old man confidently tells the others that he isn't one of the Mafias. The next contestant is a man named Ilya, who says that he has nothing left to lose because he has been diagnosed with cancer and doctors believe he has only 3 months to live. He entered the dangerous game hoping to win enough money to support his family after he is gone, but his wife would rather spend his final days together than watch him risk his life on television. Soon, the announcer introduces the 3rd and 4th contestants and reveals that these 2 men have completely different reasons for participating. They are actually dangerous criminals who have been given a chance to regain their freedom by winning the game. The younger criminal, Ivan, insists that he was wrongly convicted and never committed the crime he was accused of, but another prisoner known as Mr. Butcher simply laughs at his claim. The remaining contestants then take turns introducing themselves, and just like the others, they all insist that they are ordinary civilians with nothing to hide. Once everyone has finished their introductions, the announcer immediately starts the countdown, forcing the contestants to choose who they believe is secretly part of the Mafia. The sudden vote creates chaos as the contestants begin arguing and throwing insults at one another. A woman named Mary eventually tells everyone to stop wasting their time. Since none of them has any real evidence about the killers, Mary decides to trust her first impression and points the finger at a man named Kirill. Another contestant named Peter quickly supports her decision and suggests that they should vote without wasting any more time. However, Mr. Butcher suddenly interrupts them after recognizing Mary from a television program. He also remembers that Peter was known for constantly following Mary as her biggest fan, making everyone suspect that the 2 of them might secretly be working together. It is soon revealed that Mary was once a famous dancer, but her career came to an end after an accident left her unable to walk. Her popularity quickly vanished when she could no longer dance, and she couldn't afford the expensive prosthetic legs she needed. With no other way to rebuild her life, Mary decided to enter the Mafia game because winning was her only chance to regain her future. Knowing that their secret has been exposed, Peter admits that they were connected but insists that they are not working together as Mafia members. The other contestants refuse to believe him and begin voting for Mary, causing her to blame Peter for everything while breaking down in tears. Peter desperately tries to protect her by claiming that he is the Mafia, but nobody believes him. Mary is quickly voted out, forcing her to reveal her role by raising her hand. To everyone's shock, they discover that she was actually an innocent civilian. Suddenly, Mary's chair starts moving toward the mysterious black sphere, and the machine eventually pulls her entire body inside, leaving her unconscious. She then wakes up in a strange place filled with heavy rain, dark clouds, and violent lightning crashing down from the sky. The deadly energy begins chasing her as Mary runs desperately through the forest, desperately trying to escape with her life. Eventually, she reaches the edge of a cliff with nowhere left to go while the lightning continues closing in on her. With no other option, Mary jumps from the cliff, but the deadly energy catches her and takes her life. Inside the black sphere, Mary's body is reduced to dust before her empty chair is pulled back onto the platform. Watching what happened, the remaining contestants realize that the same horrifying fate could eventually happen to them. The creator seems disappointed by their decision as darkness falls over the city, giving the hidden Mafias the perfect opportunity to eliminate another civilian. When the lights inside the building turn on again, the Mafias have already selected their next target, and everyone discovers that Mr. Butcher has been chosen. Furious about the decision, the criminal begins shouting angrily at the other contestants, while Peter appears satisfied and blames Mr. Butcher for Mary's death. Soon, Mr. Butcher is also taken into the black sphere, where he is transported to a massive building surrounded by balconies filled with cheering spectators. The criminal immediately realizes that something is wrong when two men approach him and begin attacking with weapons, repeatedly kicking him to the ground. Fortunately, Mr. Butcher fights back using every dirty trick he knows and manages to kill one of his attackers. But the situation becomes even more terrifying when the dead enemy suddenly regenerates and returns to the fight, no matter how many times Mr. Butcher destroys them and turns them into dust. After countless battles, the criminal finally manages to defeat his opponents permanently and proudly roars toward the cheering crowd. The prisoners watching from the balcony celebrate his victory, and Mr. Butcher believes that he has finally survived the challenge. Unfortunately, everything was part of the creator's plan. As the man walks backward in celebration, he suddenly trips and falls into the rocks, killing himself in a ridiculous way in front of everyone. The contestants are then brought back to the game, where they must vote again to identify the hidden mafias. The countdown starts just like before, but this time a mysterious man named Constantine claims that he already knows who the killers are. It is revealed that Constantine has a rare brain mutation that allows him to see possible events from the future, and he uses this strange ability as a crisis consultant for major companies. Constantine confidently points at Peter and declares that he is one of the mafias, claiming that Peter killed Mr. Butcher to avenge Mary's death. Although his explanation sounds reasonable, the other contestants struggle to trust someone they have never met before. Surprisingly, Peter suddenly agrees with Constantine's accusation. Everyone starts laughing at Peter's strange reaction, but Peter then reveals that Constantine himself is also a mafia member. The revelation causes the contestants to vote for both men, but Peter quickly receives the majority of the votes and becomes the main suspect. Peter quietly laughs and warns everyone that they have made another terrible mistake. He then reveals that he is actually an innocent civilian, while Constantine simply smiles because the plan has worked. Moments later, Peter's chair begins lifting him into the air, but instead of being afraid, he looks strangely happy because he believes he can finally reunite with the woman he loved. The black sphere transports him to a huge ocean, where Peter wakes up alone inside a tiny boat surrounded by endless water. He desperately tries to paddle away, but the creator notices his attempt and causes a hole to appear in the boat, allowing water to rush inside. As if that wasn't enough, several sharks suddenly appear and begin circling the helpless man. Peter realizes that reaching land may be impossible, so he decides to take a desperate chance and uses his broken paddle as a weapon against the sharks. He manages to injure one of the creatures, causing blood to spread through the water and attract even more sharks. The predators quickly swarm around the wounded animal and tear it apart, giving Peter a brief opportunity to jump into the ocean and swim away. As he gets closer to what appears to be an island, Peter suddenly realizes that the land itself is disappearing before his eyes. Meanwhile, the sharks finish feeding and begin racing toward him in large numbers. Knowing that his death is almost certain, Peter sees the image of the woman he loved before the sharks finally reach him and devour him. Since the contestants have now failed to identify the Mafia after 3 civilians have died, the game gives them one final chance to vote before night arrives. A middle-aged man named Walter speaks first, and the group soon learns that he is a high-ranking army officer with years of combat experience. However, Walter became mentally unstable after losing all of his soldiers during a battle, and he believes that their deaths were his responsibility. He immediately begins speaking harshly toward the criminal sitting beside him because he strongly hates anyone who breaks the law. Yvonne continues insisting that he was innocent, but their argument is soon interrupted by a woman named Larissa, who accuses Walter of acting like a bully. Angered by her comment, the officer decides to expose Ivan's alleged crime. According to Walter, Ivan was a young graduate who had gone out celebrating with his friends when they accidentally crashed their vehicle into a wall. Ivan and the driver survived the accident, but 2 of their friends were killed inside the vehicle when it exploded. The survivors were eventually taken to court, where the case took a terrible turn for Ivan. Every witness claimed that Ivan had been the person driving the vehicle that night, and because of their statements, he was immediately sentenced to prison. The young man desperately begs everyone to believe his story, while Walter starts arguing with Larissa and begins suspecting that both Ivan and the woman are secretly mafias. He quickly votes against Larissa and tries to convince the others to do the same, but his strange and aggressive behavior only makes him look more suspicious. As a result, the other contestants turn against Walter and vote him out instead. The officer is sentenced to die and angrily shouts at everyone, insisting that they have made a terrible mistake. He then reveals that he is also an innocent civilian and warns the others that they will all die because of their decision. Soon the massive chair begins dragging Walter toward the black sphere, sending him into a nightmare based on his worst memories. Walter suddenly finds himself back on the battlefield, commanding his soldiers as they prepare for another fight. But the enemy quickly launches an ambush, killing his men one after another until Walter is left completely alone. The officer rushes forward to confront the attackers by himself, desperately trying to save his remaining soldiers. However, he is forced to watch helplessly as his men are slaughtered because of what he believes was his own failure. Before Walter even has time to grieve, the enemy surrounds him inside the building and opens fire. Just like his soldiers, the officer is eventually killed by a barrage of bullets. After Walter's death, it is once again time for the Mafia to choose another victim as night falls over the city. The remaining contestants can only wait helplessly and wonder who will be targeted next. When the lights finally turn back on, the announcer reveals that the Mafia has selected Larissa as their next victim. Surprisingly, the woman doesn't appear frightened by the announcement. It is revealed that Larissa was once a wonderful wife with a loving husband and a happy family, but her life slowly fell apart after she developed a serious drinking problem. Her addiction eventually destroyed her marriage and caused her family to leave her behind, forcing her to live alone inside her apartment for many years. Everything changed one day when she was driving along the highway and witnessed a terrible accident right in front of her. Larissa managed to rescue a young man from the crash, and she soon discovered that the survivor was actually Ivan. However, Larissa then confesses that she was also responsible for ruining Ivan's life. She reveals that she had been paid a large amount of money to falsely claim that Ivan was the person driving the vehicle during the accident. Larissa sincerely apologizes to Ivan for sending him to prison and causing him years of suffering. Surprisingly, Ivan chooses to forgive her despite everything she had done to him. Soon, the giant chair begins carrying Larissa toward the black sphere, preparing to send her into a nightmare of her own. The machine lifts her high into the sky, and Larissa suddenly finds herself alone inside an airplane. She looks around in confusion before realizing that the aircraft is flying straight toward a massive and terrifying storm. The dark clouds suddenly grow long tentacles, making it look as if the storm itself is alive. The strange creatures attack the airplane's engines and cause the aircraft to lose control as it falls toward the center of the hurricane. A flight attendant tries to calm Larissa down and tells her not to panic, but she is suddenly dragged away by the powerful winds. The storm tears open the airplane, sending the passengers into complete chaos. Soon, the terrifying clouds surround the survivors like a group of demons, twisting the aircraft apart and destroying everything in their path. In the end, everyone inside the plane is killed, including Larissa. After Larissa's death, only 6 contestants remain, and they still haven't managed to identify a single Mafia member. Kirill immediately suspects Ivan, believing that Ivan must have recognized Larissa and deliberately targeted her to get revenge. A young woman named Katya disagrees with him and suggests that Konstantin could also be a Mafia, since he was the one who convinced everyone to vote for Peter, who was later revealed to be innocent. Instead of defending himself, Konstantin calmly gives Katya another one of his strange predictions. He tells her that when she has nowhere left to escape, she must head towards something shaped like a triangle. The voting begins soon afterward, but the contestants become divided between Ivan and Konstantin, making it impossible for either man to receive enough votes. Then, in a shocking move, Konstantin suddenly votes for himself. Everyone is stunned by his decision, and even the mysterious creator appears surprised. Konstantin then reveals that he really is one of the hidden Mafias, before his chair carries him toward the giant black sphere. He is transported to a dark staircase where several mirrors line the walls. When Konstantin looks into them, he is horrified to see himself rapidly becoming an old man. The aging process causes him to cough violently before he eventually collapses onto the floor. Surprisingly, Konstantin remains completely calm and shows no fear of dying. He explains that everything happening was part of his plan because he managed to change the future that was originally supposed to happen. Konstantin claims that the creator will eventually lose because of his actions, and that the remaining players will one day destroy the entire Mafia game. He finally dies on the floor, but the announcer completely ignores his final warning and immediately starts the next round, giving the Mafia another chance to kill a civilian. When the lights inside the building turn back on, the announcer reveals that Ivan has been chosen as the next victim. Although Ivan knows that he is about to die, he realizes that he has already achieved something important. He managed to prove his innocence in front of the entire world, and most importantly, in front of his own mother. The remaining contestants watch sadly as Ivan's chair carries him toward the black sphere, where he finds himself inside a prison cell waiting to be executed despite being innocent. Inside Ivan's final vision, he sees his mother standing before him once again. She looks at her son with pride, giving Ivan the strength he needs to face his final moments. Seeing his mother's expression gives him the courage to accept his fate without fear. Moments later, the guns are fired, killing Ivan inside the cell. With Ivan gone, only 4 contestants remain, meaning they can no longer afford to make another mistake. However, the situation becomes even more confusing as everyone struggles to determine who the remaining mafias are. Ilya begins accusing Kirill of secretly working together with Katya because the two seem unusually close to each other. He even suspects that they might be lovers who entered the game with a hidden plan. It turns out that Kirill and Katya actually knew each other before the game because they had met at a bar. But Kirill strongly denies that they are secretly working together. After learning that they already knew each other, Luka believes that the fate of everyone now depends on the pair. Unfortunately, Katya cannot decide who they should vote against. Before they can reach a decision, the timer runs out, forcing the game to randomly select a victim. Shockingly, the chosen person is Katya herself, and she reveals that she is also an innocent civilian. The woman apologizes for failing all the players as she gets brought into the air, but Kirill manages to break out in the last moment as he desperately grabs onto the woman's chair. This causes them both to be brought into the black sphere, as the creator watches in curiosity since this has never happened before in the previous games. The two are quickly moved into a mysterious location where the man regains consciousness and realizes that they are standing on nothing but glass. He tells the woman to not be afraid and begins walking towards her, but quickly sees that the entire floor is cracking from underneath. Realizing that time is running out, the man immediately runs towards the girl as the ground begins shattering into pieces right under his feet. Kirill is able to reach the woman just in time, but they are forced to jump in the last moment and fall into the abyss. When the man eventually wakes up, he's surprised to see that they are still alive, but finds out that they are completely lost. However, the people soon notice the triangle that Konstantin talked about and realizes that it must be the only way out. The two continue venturing towards the rocks as they make it inside the valley, but the man quickly notices that something is wrong as numerous tentacles begin to surround them. This causes the people to run immediately as they try desperately to evade the monsters. The two eventually makes it through the rocks and entering into a large field where the boss music begins to play, and a giant monster made from lava starts crawling out towards them. Kirill tells the girl to hide immediately, as he rushes in to face off his worst fear and causing the monster to attack the man repeatedly by using its claws. Luckily, Kirill is able to dodge the enemy just in time and quickly notices that the creature has a weakness for the sunlight, which evaporates the monster's skin. The man is able to conjure up a plan as he sees the necklace on the enemy's head, which causes him to run towards the monster immediately as he climbs onto the creature's arm. Kirill jumps in and grabs onto the necklace before falling onto the ground while the creature launches in to attack him furiously. The man takes the chance and reflects the light towards the monster, which is quickly able to bring down the creature by burning its body and turning it into dust. He takes the necklace and puts it onto the mechanism which completes the puzzle on the wall, causing them to be consumed by a giant tornado that eventually brings them towards the creator. On the other side, the announcement tells the audiences that the game is over, as the killer is still alive when there's only one civilian left, meaning that the Mafia has won. However, this is not the true ending for Kirill and Katya, as the creator explains that this was all part of his plan. He purposely allowed the man to escape from his chair to allow the impossible to happen inside the game, as the people have become tired of the same outcomes inside the show. He also reveals that their bodies are still inside the black sphere and allows them to live on this one time, but warns the people that he will always be the one who controls the game. Sometimes later, Ilya is able to go home to his family as he quickly reveals that he was the Mafia in the end, which allows him to leave $1 billion for his loved ones before he dies. What the people don't realize is that Konstantin was right about changing the history, as Kirill plans to enter the game once again, so that he can finally stop the show that uses human lives as entertainment. So what do you guys think about this movie? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like my videos, please press like and subscribe for more.